Hey guys, Coach Ben here, bigbenchas.com, and today we're going to talk about the real reason why you have a mid-range sticking point. So when it comes to having a sticking point in the bench press, mid-range to lockout, many are quick to jump and point the finger that it just is a matter of having stronger triceps, having a stronger end range on the bench press. And while that may be true, I would say jumping to that conclusion first is typically about 70 to 80% wrong. What I have to look for first when an athlete describes having a mid-range to lockout issue isn't if their triceps are strong enough, because typically the case is that the bottom end positioning and or tension is off, and that is going to result in a position in which we're not going to be able to get through that mid-range. We might just get enough to get off the chest, and then we're not in a good position anymore, or we are ending up putting too much stress on our triceps. It's not the fact that they're weak, it's the fact that they're just trying to overcome too much, and it's too much of a deficit to get through. So I'm going to show you how we can improve bottom end positioning and how that's going to suddenly change that sticking point and lead to bigger benching. So the typical fault when it comes to having that mid-range to lockout sticking point is, again, bottom end positioning. Either the positioning is collapsing or we're getting loose and it's leading to a bad bar path or our elbows flaring out on us. So I'm going to show you both of these issues here. The most common issue with a mid-range to lockout sticking point is just your typical sink and heave type bench pattern. And that's just going to be the result of that type of benching. Someone's going to get this giant pop off the chest. It's a very relaxed, lack of tightness and tension type of pop. And then you're just hoping you're under that bar in order to catch and be able to fire through the rest of the way. So that's going to look like this, where someone's just going to let that weight completely collapse them. Head usually comes up, and then they get this strong jolt from the legs to try to throw that bar back. All right, they're relying entirely on just that momentum of their body in order to try to carry that bar through. There is zero tightness and or tension in that type of lift. So what'll typically happen is, again, super loose here. You get this pop, and then you're just hoping you can catch it at some point without twisting or having a deficit on one side, and then somehow be able to power through. So that is typically the major player at fault when we're talking mid-range lockout issue, is that we're getting some type of that benching. The other issue is just lack of back tightness. So we might be in a good position. We might be able to hold the weight here, but as we're holding the weight here, either we're collapsing slightly or my shoulders are starting to ride up, my elbows are starting to flare out, and then when I go to press, I'm actually in a position in which I'm going to start pressing that bar away from myself. So I might still have that tension enough and leg drive to start getting that bar moving, right? But I'm just in a bad position here. My elbows are starting to flare out, my chest is already collapsed, that I just don't have enough strength in this position to carry through. And it's not a strength deficit, it's just a positioning deficit. Because if I was to stay in a good tight position, I'd be able to power through. It has nothing to do with strength, it has everything to do with we're just getting loose here in the bottom position. And that bar is actually pointed to press away from our bodies, not back. So what do we need to do to go about making this correction so that we're able to fire through all the way to lockout? Well, what we're first going to have to do is avoid any of that sink and heaving. That style is just not going to be conducive to making sure we carry through all our strength through lockout. So keeping your head planted to the pad, keeping and maintaining a constant leg drive is going to be really, really important. Not just trying to time leg drive when you're looking to press. That's a real important thing. That's the first correction. The other correction is when you bend that bar, right, we want to activate our lats to bend this bar. That's going to lift our chest, all right, and we're just going to maintain that chest lift to the bar the whole entire time, all right? So you want to think about bending that bar. That's going to fire your lats. It's It's gonna help pull your chest through. You're gonna continue to try to reach your chest, all right? And you're gonna feel a lot of back tension here in this bottom position. And that's something that you can work on and feel without you having to load up the bar, all right? You wanna be able to shift that tension from being in this loose position here where maybe you collapse a bit. A lot of what you're gonna feel in this type of press is gonna be chest and shoulders doing a lot of the work. As opposed to, if we get ourselves in a good position, we're constant leg drive, neck is planted, lats are tight underneath, we are going to fire through. It's gonna be a lot of just that lats giving that spring, and then triceps to finish. So you're putting your triceps in a better position to do the work they have to do. So it's not a lack of tricep strength, it's a lack of positioning for the triceps to do their job. So there you have it. First thing you want to look at when you're correcting a mid-range to lockout issue, like I said, 8 times out of 10, it's not going to be a strength deficit of the triceps. It's going to be a lack of bottom end positioning and tension. All right, and that's typically the case, especially with raw athletes. All right, before you go and smash yourself to death with a bunch of tricep work, a bunch of board presses and whatnot, you want to take into account that bottom end positioning and tension. If those two things are in place, if you look good in the bottom position, if you're tight, if you're aligned in a position with your forms that you can actually fire that bar back, then you have to look at strengthening the triceps in that end range. So then you can start implementing board press, pin press, floor press, a lot of those mid-range things. When you do your tricep work or your benching in general, making sure everything is a full lockout. All right, that's a huge one. That's something that helped me out a ton of my career, is just making sure I'm doing all my accessories, all my benching to full lockout, so you actually get that strengthening effect at end range. There you have it, guys. Again, if you have a mid-range to lockout sticking point, it may not be associated with weak triceps. It could be, but first you have to look at bottom end positioning and tension. Coach Ben here. And you know where to find me. You can meet me on a bench. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to learn more about how to increase your bench press, consider joining us in our Better Benching Academy. To learn more, simply click the link down below in the description box or visit bigbenchas.com/BB Academy. I'll see you there.